Hi guys, I'm just another guy named James, and today I'm going to be talking about the next chunk of G.I. Joe comics, which is going to be these 4 issues from 1986, we'll say. I think that's even right. And honestly, these issues are all pretty good. They're all written by Larry Hama. I forget who drew them, but I want to say this is Ron Wagner. Yep, Ron Wagner at least drew the first one, maybe the next couple as well. And honestly, they're pretty good. But all of them except for this first one actually have the same interesting. I wouldn't call this a problem, but this interesting characteristic where they're all just introducing new characters, and this is something that ends up being a problem of the G.I. Joe comic for the next few years of its run, where there's too many new characters being constantly introduced for you to care about any of them. And with some of these characters, that's not a problem, not really, but it's a symptom of a problem that definitely exists later on in the comics run. But like I said, not a problem yet. And honestly, I would recommend catching up on a couple of G.I. Joe videos. I would definitely recommend watching the last one, and there'll be a link to that video down in the description. But yeah, honestly, like I said, these issues are written by Larry Hama, like almost every other issue of the Marvel G.I. Joe series is. And they're drawn by Ron Wagner, who you may know as an artist from Punisher. He's pretty good. He's not my favorite G.I. Joe artist. I don't know who is my favorite G.I. Joe artist, but it's definitely not him, although he's not bad. But yeah, honestly, let's just get rolling in so that I can talk about these issues after they've already been talked about. Alright, so our story begins with Flint and Lady J flying off to Scotland in pursuit of Destro, who, if you remember from last time, was freed from the pit. The pit was G.I. Joe headquarters. And Destro also helped Cobra Commander find his son. And the Joes are after Destro because they believe that his company, Mars, may have access to the complete schematic for Cobra's deadly new toy, the Drome. In Scotland, we see Destro heading for his castle, and once he gets inside, he comes face to face with an imposter. An imposter who has the real Destro thrown out of the castle and arrested. Flint and Lady J, who need the plans, decide to bust Destro out of jail. And with the help of some heavy ordnance from Flint, they succeed. Lady J and Destro then get on a old World War II era bomber, and they have Flint drive a jeep to help them take off, and then Flint also serves as a distraction at Castle Destro. And Flint's a really good distraction because he's able to keep all of the ammunition fire locked on him, and that gives Destro and Lady J time to crash into the castle greenhouse, which takes them inside. And inside we see that the fake Destro is trying to get the schematic for the Drome until the real Destro and Lady J make it to the door of the file room. They can't get through, so Flint comes crashing through in his jeep, leading the 2 Destros into having a fist fight. A fight that the real Destro wins, revealing the fake one to be none other than Major Blood, who used to be a higher up in Cobra and now is just like a errand boy, basically. So Destro gives Flint and Lady J the schematics as a reward for helping him, and he sends them on their merry way. Our next issue opens in the Middle East as 2 new Joes named Dusty and Mainframe help to lead a group of counter-revolutionaries in an attack on a convoy in exchange for some help with their own objective. So soon the Joes break off with a very young man, kid's like 13, as their guide through the desert. And we then cut to Denver, Colorado, where we see Cobra Commander come into contact with the Crimson Guardsman, Fred 7. We then cut back to the Middle East, where we see the Joes have set up camp for the night, but Dusty can tell that something is off, so he goes off to investigate, leaving Mainframe and their guide, Rashid, to watch the camp. And after a few minutes and a couple of explosions, Dusty comes back with some extra munitions. Back in Denver, we see Fred give Cobra Commander some sleek new battle armor, which greatly increases his strength and agility. But the test of the armor is interrupted by Cobra Commander's son, Billy, waking up from his coma. And he's been in this coma for the last several issues. But before we see anything else with that, we see that the Joes in the Middle East have found their objective, a Cobra terror drome hidden in an empty oil tank. Mainframe begins setting up a phone call so he can call Hawk, Lady J, who is misdrawn as Scarlet here in this issue, I don't know why, and Flint at Fort Wadsworth, and actually begins to use some of the schematics they got from Destro. And they use these schematics in line with the computer system to basically make a copy of the computer data that they can now use. So, yeah, they now have a functional copy of the Terradrome's computer. And inside the Terradrome, we see that the Joes are confronted by some of Colonel Sharif's guards, and Dusty is knocked out. So Mainframe takes care of them with the use of a slight trick play, but the guards in the Terradrome are nothing compared to the small army outside of it. So Mainframe uses the Firebat, that's the little anti-air defense system plane that comes with the Terradromes, to rain down havoc and firepower on the army, giving the three heroes time to escape and ride off into the sunrise. We then cut back to Denver, where we see that Fred 7 has outfitted Billy with a robotic leg. We also see that Billy has lost his memory, but before anything else can happen with that, we see that a Cobra agent named Raptor come in and tell Cobra Commander that he can track the Joes through their payroll. And we then cut to a small unit of Joes testing out a new armored vehicle called the Slam. And we're also introduced to a new Joe named Tunnel Rat, before they pack up the Slam and get moving in a convoy which stops near the base of some mountains in the Rockies, where the Joes meet up with their survival specialist, Outback, before rolling out once again. We then cut to the Cobras, who have been in pursuit of the Joes convoy, but they're stopped by a rock slide. So Raptor sends his Falcons to look for the Joes, while Cobra Commander puts on his armor, and Fred 7 prepares a new vehicle to test out. We then cut to Billy, who has remembered his past. He's remembered his training with Storm Shadow, how he attempted to murder his father, Cobra Commander. He remembers everything. So he goes and meets a blind ninja master who has a student that is part of the same ninja clan as Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. The Falcons are able to find the Joes and report back to Raptor, so Cobra Commander takes off in the Pogo, that's the vehicle that Fred was getting ready, and he goes after the Joes. The Joes start to shoot at the Pogo as soon as they see it, but they can't get a target lock, so Outback hops on the Slam, which has advanced tracking technology, and it's also just an anti-air gun, which is what they're looking for. But the Joes are entering a tunnel, and the idea there is you get the Slam out, and you're in the tunnel, so there's only one way that Cobra Commander can attack you from. Cobra Commander in the Pogo just jumps over the tunnel, and he tries to take on the APC directly. That's the armored personnel carrier. But the Pogo has a mechanical malfunction and gets just run over, basically, by the APC. But Cobra Commander is able to make it back to Fred 7 and Raptor, and they now know that the method of tracking the Joes through their payroll works. And there is also a fourth issue in this set, but it's honestly maybe the most irrelevant issue of G.I. Joe to ever be produced. It's just very strange. You do meet a bunch of new Joes, but you don't actually care about any of them. You meet Lieutenant Falcon, Chuckles, Law and Order. Law is the guy, Order's the dog. It's weird. It's another dog trainer guy. It's a very strange comic. Honestly, it just doesn't really fit with the G.I. Joe with the rest of the G.I. Joe comics that are coming out. It's a Dreadnought heavy issue, and I don't like the Dreadnoughts at all. Honestly, they're some of my least favorite characters in the G.I. Joe comic, and I think they serve them, and I think they basically just are a massive disservice to the writing of the comic. But yeah, that issue's just not very great. That's issue 60. And it's just, one of the most irrelevant G.I. Joe comics ever written. You can skip it in your reading, and I don't think anything changes. But yeah, honestly, the rest of these issues, though, they're really great. These first two especially, this one, the one with Destro, Flint, and Lady J is an all-time favorite, and this one with Dusty and Mainframe is a great comic. One of my favorites of this like second era of G.I. Joe. I really like that. Dusty and Mainframe are both standout characters. You like both of them a lot. And then in the next issue, it's an odd one. Like, what's the deal with the pogo? Why is that a thing randomly? And the answer is because it's a toy. And that's the answer for why a lot of this exists, is because the toys came out, and the comic had to include the toys so that the toys would sell better. Which, it's an unfortunate side effect of it being of the G.I. Joe comic being a toy tie-in. But it also just creates a new challenge for the writer to carry out every time. And it's a challenge that I think for a while Larry Hammond was very adept at meeting. Most of those first 40, 50 even characters are really standout characters, and you like them. You like most of them, and if nothing else, they're very distinct. And yeah, that last issue that I barely even talked about does introduce a lot of characters that don't really have any personality and are pretty one-off, honestly. I can't think of another time that they show up. Most of them, I know Lieutenant Falcon shows up again, but I can't think of when the rest of them do. Honestly, a lot of these issues, though, are really good. They're nothing special, but I like them a lot. Especially that first issue with Destro, Flint, and Lady J. That one really does feel like it's all about the characters. Flint and Lady J feel very like invested in Destro. This is the start of kind of a new character arc for Destro, where he's kind of disassociating with Cobra, and that's an arc that lasts for a while, as you'll see later on, I suppose. But yeah, really, this is just like somewhere just chugging along for G.I. Joe. This feels like it was a break between the last big story with Snake Eyes getting kidnapped, and the next big story, which is a really good one. So yeah, this does kind of just feel like a bridge between those. But yeah, honestly, I'm kind of running out of things to say, so I'm just gonna stop talking. But that's all for now. So I'm just another guy named James. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.